Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Everyone in this town knows the Lib Dems are broken. You've got Howard Sykes, who's been protecting sex of, he won't say how long he knew ROD BLYTH. He won't say what he knew or didn't know about his mate, his self-declared mate, CYRIL SMITH. It's disgraceful. And without a healthy democracy only exists with a range of strong parties who all want the best for the town. And we've not got that in this town, unfortunately, and we've not had that for a long time. You've all seen how the Lib Dems behave. They're in bed with the Labour Party. They helped cover up for the grooming. And at the time, we didn't know about ROD BLYTH. And then at the time, we also didn't know about Martin Judd, who now faces charges for CSE. It's just a disgrace. It's just an absolute disgrace. This town is a cesspit. I just hope, Gary, Mark, Debbie, I just hope that at least one of you gets over that finishing line in May. And I just hope that we take out Sean Fielding, we take out Howard Sykes. The Tory guy, Hudson, he's not standing again, he's not well enough, and his wife's recently died, so... Moab can... Yeah, in fact, we forgot all about that, Moab, didn't we? He was having you investigated because you were apparently a member of a different group. Oh. And yes, the reason why I got expelled from the Labour Party was they accused me of being a member of a different political party. Of course, it's not true, but it doesn't matter because I want nothing to do with a bunch of proven racist paedophile protectors. But what I do care about is the working class people of my town, and we've been failed. So I really, really, really hope that we get one of you over the line, because if we can get one of you over the line, it gives courage to the rest of the town that these tyrants can be defeated. And we can take one out, we can take the next one out, and the one after that out. And we're not going anywhere. I think that's very clear by now. None of us are going anywhere. There's a reckoning coming, and we've had enough. And we'll take one of them out, and then the next one, and we know, and all of you need to understand this, because I see the posts repeated on Facebook, and I don't want to respond, and I don't want to criticise people openly. But guys, there is only 20 candidates up in May. You cannot wrestle power away from the Labour Party in May. No matter what happens, those bastards, those paedophile protectors, those thieves and liars, those heroin dealers' mates, they will still be in power come May after the election. It's only at the all-out election, I think it's scheduled for the following year, do we have a chance of getting rid of them. But even then, in the cartel-controlled areas, we don't stand a chance. The postal votes are rigged. The mosques have been secretly funded for generations. The community centres have been funded. They are bought and paid for. And those who aren't bought and paid for are too scared. Yeah. Led the tributes to CYRIL SMITH. And I'll get on to Howard now. I might as well do Howard now. Led the tributes to CYRIL SMITH and referenced ROD BLYTH as his friend and did a eulogy, and refuses, to this day, Howard Sykes still refuses to confirm when he personally knew that ROD BLYTH had been charged for child sex exploitation and convicted for child sex exploitation. Covered it all up. The council, Dr. Carolyn Wilkins, in partnership with her team in the council, with what's he called, Paul Bentwhistle, Howard Sykes, Jim McMahon, all of them, as if they didn't know that a senior councillor, and then Martin Judd last week or the week before, recently charged. I'm looking forward to his explanation of how he all of those horrific, because that's what category A images are, horrific images made onto his various devices. I have, I don't know how many devices I've got in my house. My daughter's paw prints are all over all of them. But I know there's nothing untoward on any of them. That's what they do, isn't it? You've all heard the phrase, you know, first they laugh at you. Yeah. There you go. We'll see who'll laugh last. I'm with the Proud of Oldham people. I think you need more policies. I think you need to be stronger in your messages, and you're more coherent and more active. It is what it is. Unfortunately, you can't campaign on the doorsteps, but you can still campaign. I see, and I'm not a Tory. You all know I'm not a Tory, but I've said it before. I see that young woman in St. James, Beth Sharps or Beth whatever. I see the young lad, but my age probably, in News for South Chadderton. Get a camera. Go out, take a video message, put it up there. Say your piece. Show some courage. You want to be a councillor? Get out there. Say something. Say what you're going to change. Say what you'll no longer stand for. Those are the messages. We need hope in this town. And I'm glad Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth exist, because I think you are giving people hope. Let me bring up Howard. Here we go. Howard Sykes. I used to think Howard Sykes was bright. I think he's under pressure. And because he's under pressure, he's behaving like a, you know. But it's Imogen Clyde Smith again. Do you see her name at the top? Don't worry, Imogen. I've got a surprise for you, my dear. Might do it next week. So the Liberal Democrats call for rolling criminal records checks for councillors. It comes after former colleague and Liberal Democrat councillor ROD BLYTH was placed on the sex offenders register for 10 years in December 2019 after making indecent photographs of children. Howard, stop taking us for fools, mate. You knew. A DBS check would have made no difference when he was your mate and you knew what he'd done. And why is it, Howard, that in all of this, you won't tell us when you knew? It doesn't matter about the rolling DBS checks. I want to know when you knew. I like how they've... I'm all right with it. How they've whitewashed me out of it. Well, it's all right. In September last year, following rumours that the former elected member had used equipment issued by Oldham Council to access illegal images of children. No, Imogen. There weren't rumours of Oldham Council's computers or something. What I clearly stated was that he was a convicted sex offender. And if I'd got it wrong, I'd have been arrested. Isn't that right? If I'd got it wrong, I would have been arrested. And do you know who told me? Once again, it was people in the council, too scared to raise it themselves. Let's read some more what Howard had to say. If we had rolling DBS checks for all councillors, we would discover any offending behaviour and be able to act upon it more quickly. Howard Sykes, you take the people of Shaw to be fools. Just answer the question. When did you know that your mate was a nonce? Councillor Sykes has written to the chair and chief executive of the DBS to explain on why it's not possible under law, blah, blah, blah. Councillor Sykes, you just need to answer a question. When did you know that your mate liked to make Category A CSE images, film, whatever? When are you going to tell us, Councillor Sykes? When are you going to tell us, Councillor Sykes, of which schools ROD BLYTH had access to children in, of which community and youth centres he had access to children in, and what investigations have been done to make sure that your nonce mate did not have access to children in those council-run establishments. No, Howard Sykes, we are not interested in rolling criminal record checks for councillors. We want you to tell us when you knew your mate, ROD BLYTH, had been charged for child sex exploitation. We want to know when you knew he had been convicted for child sex exploitation. And we want to know why you kept it a secret until I released it. And we want to know why you failed to stand up in that chamber and ask or tell or demand from the rest of the council why they kept it a secret if you didn't know. Because from where I'm standing, Howard Sykes, you're a paedophile protector. You knew about your mate, didn't you, Howard? And if you didn't know that your fellow Shaw councillor was doing all of this, you should say you didn't know. Not the Liberal Democrat group and try and be clever with words. Just say I, Howard Sykes, did not know. Dares you. You can't, can you, Howard? Image and blah, blah, blah. Rumours. Rumours. They weren't rumours. And they're still making it into this issue that, oh, it's okay. He might have been a nonce, but he didn't use his council laptop to be a nonce. And here's the next. Howard's having a good day, I think, or a bad day, depending on how you look at it. Here is the former Weavers answered. So this is on Howard Sykes' own personal page. You can see, can't you? Howard Sykes, yeah, convenient. You know, you see his top part hanging over that stone wall, and a smile on his face. And it's the Shaw Liberal Democrat councillors pleased at former Weaver's answer, PH plan refusal. Okay, I brought this to your attention, I think last week or the week before it might have even been. So it's been knocked back. This 18-room temporary homeless hostel has been refused. And these people only got on board after the public outcry. Remember, they didn't say anything or didn't even post it, they didn't know about it. And they've refused the application. And it seems that these guys have been making unlawful or illegal alterations to the building and all of that. They have a right to appeal. Councillor Sykes added, All councillors recognise there is a need for accommodation of this type in Oldham, and this is not the right location for it. And that is why local councillors, the parish council and residents objected so strongly. And it also seems that the planning application lot didn't complete the HMO application, the House of Multiple Occupation, which will present a further hurdle. What Howard Sykes omits, and what is also omitted by this man, Nick Jackson, in his story with Howard Sykes, almost word for word the same, is that the organisation who put in the planning application got exposed. The organisation that put in the planning application for the conversion of this Shore pub into a homeless hostel, the private business that did this, got exposed by us, me, you, some of you people here helped me pull this together, but we exposed them. They were the very same people who had donated £100,000 of PPE equipment to the council that Arud Shah stood in a picture on the Oldham Council webpage. I'm not sure they're happy with their Oldham, with their £100,000 donation now. Do you? Emma, the former court building in Oldham is being converted into one-bedroom flats. What I laughed at, I shouldn't laugh, but what I laughed at is, remember, Jim McMahon wanted to build Hotel Future on the former Curia Hall and rest of it, and create that space as a destination venue where people would be paying for rooms, and it'd be this fancy hotel, cost, I don't know, million, give or take, on failed consultancy fees. It's going to be a slum, Emma. That's what it's going to be. They're not interested. They just want to make the town poorer and poorer. And one way of making the town poorer and poorer is destroying any chance our town centre has of regeneration. In fact, Sean Fielding has even said he doesn't see the future of the town centre as retail. So what on earth do you see the future of our town centre as? Residential? Well, that wouldn't make it a town centre then, would it? Oh, I forgot. You don't want a town centre. You want everyone to get on that tram to go to Manchester. You just want to sell the town out. I'm sorry, Emma, I don't see it as a good thing. The reason I don't see it as a good thing, if you read the small print of that and the way you access those places, they come as support packages, Emma. They're for vulnerable people. And I ain't got an issue with vulnerable people, but I think vulnerable people need to be housed in suitable housing, not in one-bedroom bed-sit type spaces where they don't have access to services, where there is no sense of community, and it just perpetuates all of the negativity around them, and it puts them in a worse position. When we used to work with young offenders, what we always tried to do, particularly in schools and stuff, when we worked with those, we wanted to put them in an aspirational space alongside others who had ambition, so they could learn by modelling and learn from example. And we know we asked a lot of those we put them alongside, but people are good people and they want to help. But that's the way you move people on from that place of negativity and the consequences of many years of poor life, poor decision making. You put them in aspirational places alongside people who they can see parallels in, but have turned their lives around and doing better. You don't just lump them all in the same place, because the outcome is inevitable. But it's the outcome that these people want. Yeah, sorry. So we agree. The rooms are smaller than we would normally be allowed, but it's still a good thing. Of course, how is it a good thing for all of them? You're just perpetuating poverty and perpetuating hardship. If I was a betting man, I'd bet the rate of suicide and crime and all of that in that space will be far higher than it should be. But hey, someone's making a book out of it. and the council are getting what they want, because when it comes to filling in those forms, the poverty box has been ticked yet again. You've all seen this. Greater Manchester Police deliberately withheld information from Mayor's office, claims Andy Burnham. So this article is written by a woman called Jennifer Williams. Jennifer Williams is the unofficial press officer for Andy Burnham and has been for a number of years. She is a horrible, horrible woman and lives in Charlton, and is just, you know, I call her a viper. And she's been helping cover up for all sorts of horrible things. She's a Labour, you know, Boris Johnson made reference to her specifically. The Prime Minister making reference to a journalist specifically is a rare thing, but she's Labour Party press officer. When that picture I put up of Keir Starmer outside the old town hall with all the others, you know, she went and, from what I remember, she went and picked him up from the train station. So that's who she is. So Burnham, she's now starting to turn on Burnham, not because she wants to, but because she has to. Because women, not just women, men like that, who are leeches, who feed off the success of others and use them as stepping stones, and as soon as it turns, they leave. We all, you know, I'm looking at pictures of all of you. We're all of a certain age, and we all have come across people like that in our lives, and sometimes to our detriment. We're, you know, at best fair weather friends. But Jennifer Williams is now turning on Andy Burnham, and Andy Burnham has said that the police deliberately withheld information from the Mayor's office. Now, there's a problem with that statement. One, the first problem is Andy Burnham is the Police and Crime Commissioner. Oh, he's farmed it out to his deputy, Beverly Hughes. So he's responsible. So he's admitting he can't do his job. But there's another problem to that. There's a deeper problem to that. And that deeper problem, and I'll bring it up here, is if that was the case, if they withheld evidence, you know, information from him, why did Andy Burnham extend? It's not the Mayor's office. Andy Burnham is the person in charge. But the Chief Constable never told me anything and presided over decisions in a negative culture is the fact his contract was extended in summer 2019 by Andy Burnham, which called him outstanding. So if the Chief Constable never told you anything and presided over bad decisions in a negative culture, Andy Burnham, why did you call him outstanding and extend his contract? And then the problem is, and she's getting nastier now, so this was a Fuller Up article, why politicians, not just top cops, must bear responsibility for our policy failures. Jennifer Williams investigates. She ran an investigation on me and just lied and lied. So, but this is interesting, isn't it? She's turned on him. Yeah, Maggie Oliver. I've seen Maggie Oliver stuff. I've seen my mate Pete Jackson stuff. Now the problem here, the connection with Oldham, and this is the connection in Oldham, and I'll bring this up. Sorry, I'm just going to close this advert at the top. I'll bring this up. It's actually a funny thing, but let me just find it in all of it. There we go. Here we go. Can we see that? One councillor. So Burnham admitted this at the police panel that he reports to, and each of the councils have a councillor representative on it. So the person we have on it is Oldham councillor Steve Williams. Of course, it's Labour. Steve Williams remarked sympathetically that Andy Burnham and Beverly Hughes must have been fizzing when they read the HMI report. Fizzing. The problem is, for those of you who know who Steve Williams is, and perhaps this is the calibre of the politicians of our town, Steve Williams is the Oldham representative on one of the most important panels in Greater Manchester. Prior to being a councillor, Steve Williams was known locally as Fireman Sam because he used to follow fire engines around. No, I'm not joking. And what you've now got is line after line of senior police officers, past and present, calling the police and crime commissioner, the mayor, the Greater Manchester mayor, that you all pay for, by the way, you all pay for with a precept on your council tax. Whether you voted for him or not, you pay for him and his office and his girlfriends and his whatever mistresses and whatever, and all the people he has hired around him with his political alliances and stuff. You pay for all of that. And what's happened is police officers have come out and said he's a liar. Yeah, Mark, you know of him as well. Yeah. The guy on his bike. That's him. That guy is the town's representative on the policing panel. They could indeed use the incinerator to burn the brown envelopes. But he's been caught lying. He's pushed the copper under the bus, and the copper shouldn't have been there anyway, because of the corruption, but he knew. Pete Jackson, Maggie Oliver, went directly to Andy Burnham with a whole list of issues that Beverly Hughes also helped cover up. They all need to go. They all need to be arrested, actually. But the connection with Oldham, not just this guy, Fireman Sam, the councillor, but the problem link with Oldham is, remember Pete Jackson, the name Pete Jackson? Pete Jackson has got a complaint against Oldham Council because Sean Fielding falsely referred to him as a far-right activist and someone who was sacked by the police force. He's neither. Now, why would Sean Fielding refer to a senior ex-police officer that way? Would it be to try and discredit him and score some brownie points with his mate Andy Burnham? Why is it? Why is it that not a single Oldham MP, senior councillor, is questioning the failure at Greater Manchester Police? Why is that? Because this is a failure. This is a national scandal. 80,000 crimes. It's not because they're protecting the police. Don't think that for 1 minute. It's because the guy in charge, who's overseen much of the dodginess that's gone on, the guy in charge is Andy Burnham. I promised I'd do this because I think it's important. Some of you have sent me this and asked me for my opinion on it, and I've just read it and tried to make sense of it. So I think it's only fair I do my best by you. I still can't believe the incinerator, as tall as the civic centre, and no one stopped to tell us. Okay, let me try it. Let me bring this up first, and let's do the story first, and then I'll try and use this other camera, and it's to do with this, isn't it? And I just need to zoom out. So give me a second so you can see it. The Sean Crompton town crier. Personal sadness. It is with much personal sadness I have today offered my resignation as town crier. I was criticised for something that I posted on my personal Facebook page by a councillor about my own child. It's the nickname we use for him at home is my only defence, with the words that I am the town crier and shouldn't be using such words as I represent the town. Rather than bring the future shame and distress to the people of Sean Crompton, I resigned with immediate effect. If I offended anyone else, then I wholeheartedly apologise. I love our small town, and it was an honour to represent you all, and I have many fond memories of representing the town. And it goes on. It's heartfelt. I think it's quite clear it's a heartfelt apology. And it transpires that he was forced to resign. And many of you, defended him. But he called his son was it a pikey? Is that right? So we're clear. All of us are clear that it is a word that is racist. It's negative. It's negative. But, and there is a but. Context matters. Context always matters. Now, I don't buy into the personal Facebook page thing at all, so I don't accept that argument. I know friends of mine have made that argument. I don't, because if you've posted on Facebook and your profile is open, it's an age thing, I suppose. It's no different than you shouting it in a pub or something and others can hear you. So, unfortunately, mate, it doesn't wash like that. But I still feel compelled to defend this man, because there's more to this than goes on. 1. He used the word. Now, let me swap cameras. Let me get this right and write this down. So, there is a whole host of racist words. We all know that they're racist. We don't use them. We've trained ourselves not to use them. But sometimes those words are not used with intent. So for something to be racist, when I used to work in this field, intent was important. Did you intend to use that phrase in a racist way? Because if you didn't, it becomes something else. It becomes this. It becomes ignorance. Ignorance we educate, because we're all ignorant in our own ways of some things. Yeah, I'm ignorant. I remember growing up and using a whole host of words and phrases that would now be, in this day and age, would be considered homophobic. I'd be horrified to use them now, but I was educated. So there's something about intent. Ask any professional who understands racism. The word power, sorry, I should have got a better pen than this. By using that word, did he do something to oppress the person used it against? No, he said it himself. It's the nickname we use for him at home. His own child. So there's no intent, there's no power, and finally, was there discrimination there? No. So this was nothing more than about ignorance. And we educate ignorance. We don't demonize people. So this actually had nothing to do with racism. This was, as is the case repeatedly in our town, this was another example of the weaponizing of race. This is nothing other than the weaponizing of race. They were looking for something to shaft this bloke with. And it doesn't help any of us by behaving this way. And the irony of such a word is suitable. Is look what Sean Fielding has repeatedly done. I have more respect for this bloke and I don't know him. Even though he used a word that is considered racist, than I ever will have for Sean Fielding or Arud Shah or any of those who have done far worse. You're right, Paul. It's bullying. And Emma, you're right to think, you're okay to think that it's okay, but it's not. Unfortunately, it's not. I remember having conversations with people who tell me that the word packy was okay because they didn't mean any malice behind it. And I'd explain to them that whilst they didn't, in wider society, unfortunately, that term was used in an oppressive way to wield power and discriminate. and harm others. But that didn't make them a racist, it just made them ignorant. And we can educate ignorance. Doesn't make him a far-right activist or anything like that. This is nonsense. This had nothing to do with racism. This was to do with one councillor who was putting someone in a place because he didn't like him. There you go. It was Chris Gloucester then, wasn't he? Ex-copper, is that right? Sorry, Emma, if that was a spelling of it. But he wasn't racist. You've asked me. I've shared with you what I think happened there. And I've also shared with you why I think it happened there. And I shared with you why it's wrong. It's the weaponizing of racism. We either accept that in a town like ours, with the history that we have, that we all carry prejudice with us, and we try and educate ourselves and each other to a better place so we can all live in a better place with each other. By attacking people on issues like this, no. It's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. Right. Which brings me to... Oh, and I like this camera, by the way. It works. I just need to get a better pen. Maybe some markers. I'll borrow some of my daughter's crayons or something. But let's see. Whilst I've got you on, does it work? Yeah, it'll work. This will work for the... I've got something really interesting next week I want to do on this to do with the boundary changes. So this camera will work for that. Which brings me on to the last thing. I'm sorry I've gone up to... It's nearly 10 o'clock, so I've gone on and I need to share this with you, I'm afraid. You've seen this picture, I've shared it before. It's actually on the Recusant 9 webpage, which is due an overhaul at some point soon. It's this guy called Zia Hussain, that's her brother, Arud Shah, Labour Party Rosette, her brother Labour Party Rosette, and you can see he's got also a Labour Party Rosette. I think you can see it just brushing against her brother's arm. So all three of them have got Labour Party Rosettes on. Yep. It's at the election where she was elected, I think. This is what this guy did. There's context. I know many of you have heard this before, but there's context with what I'm going to share next. One victim was sexually abused with a broomstick and forced to perform a sex act on his fellow captive. His ordeal was filmed and gang members threatened to release the humiliating footage if the police were told. The gang put electric clamps on one victim's testicles and beat him with carpet strip. He was stripped naked and hot wax dripped on his body. When police examined the house, they found blood on the settees and splattered on the walls. Okay. We accept that these are dangerous individuals. We accept that these dangerous individuals have access to resources and means of harming others. It's been 2 years, just approaching 2 years now, when I started this. And you will remember from the beginning that love hearts were put next to the endorsement of my murder. Arud Shah's close associate Kasim Lenny, self-declared close associate Kasim Lenny, who runs the Oldham News and Media Facebook page, made reference to me as a gay Christian convert on the basis that saying that about me would encourage jihadists to come and kill me. I don't exaggerate by now. I think people can see this isn't an exaggeration. This is exactly as it is. I've reported this to the police, who are refusing to investigate or delaying their investigations because it's a can of worms. After all, Arood Shah is the deputy leader of the council and Jim McMahon's associate assistant, and it'll escalate. Now what's took place is that having failed or taken those steps, we're getting the local Pakistani gangsters and then the Islamists. Remember, Jim McMahon recently was openly engaged in dialogue with Neil Wilby. That Sean Fielding openly referenced Neil Wilby in a council meeting, and Neil Wilby has accessed information he should not have. It must have come from the council to do with one of the complainants that the council are investigating or avoiding investigating. Well, the same Neil Wilby has now took to social media to claim this. That's his account, UPSD GMP. You can see he's referencing Ewan Stewart and 42 others. 42 others. Which leads us to the other persistent rumour, dating back years, that Raja Mia is a police narc. So they are now claiming I'm a police informant. Now, why would they be claiming I'm a police informant? If nothing other than to get these gangsters who shove broomsticks up people's arses and torture them. This is nothing more than another mark being put on me by people associated with Jim McMahon. Remember, McMahon openly engaged in dialogue with Wilby. Fielding openly endorsed Wilby in a town meeting, in a council meeting. And now Wilby is promoting this story. And you can see he's not even using the term informant. He's using the word narc. So in some derogatory term, dating back years. There is no persistent rumour that dating back years I'm a police informant. I'd have to have access to gangsters and criminals to be a police informant. Anyone with any common sense would have access. I don't run in those circles. Not only has he made that up, this is encouragement for someone else to come and kill me. Now, why would Wilby do that? And his sidekick? As has been posted by others elsewhere, there's a strong possibility that it is in fact Mr. Mia that has the protection of local police on account of him, brackets allegedly, being a police informant. Direct associate of Jim McMahon, MP, Sean Fielding, leader of Oldham Council, Arood Shah, claiming I am a police informant. There's only one reason why that would be the case.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.